Okay. I will apologize to Elizabeth because I kind of missed the entire mission statement from the recording, but
Yes.
it's okay.
Now it has started. Now it has started.
Sorry for that.
Okay. Well, I met Umaji in the most. I cannot say it's a coincidence. It was a synchronicity by the universe. I'd lost my son, and I was trying to find a small twig which would help me sail through. And in one of the groups, someone suggested that why don't you contact Uma Girish? She's a wonderful grief coach. She'll help you out. And I just put out a message to her, and she responded back immediately, despite of the fact that I was a total stranger. And the best part about this meeting was that she was in India. She had come to Chennai, and she messaged me that give me your phone number and I'll talk to you. And she talked to me straight for 30 minutes, I remember. I was weeping and I was crying and I was talking to her and I was pouring out all my struggles. You know, my daughter was young, she was struggling, I was struggling. I didn't know what I was doing right or wrong, and she put me to so much peace. Uh, I don't know how I can explain that piece, but it was ethereal. It was God sent. And since that day, I'm a big fan of Umaji. I always consider her to be a mentor to me, a big sister to me, a mother to me, whatever, whatever I cannot put more words to it. So maybe she's a grief coach to so many people, but for me, she has been really my savior. I would put it this way, Chandra. I had nobody then except for her. I had nobody then. And I always remember she always said, turn your pain into purpose. And that is what I have been trying to do all these years, right, Umaji?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I don't know if I'm deserving of everything you said about me. It
You
was
are much.
just my intention to serve, from my own place of pain and loss and grief. So I'm just grateful that our paths crossed and you were able to receive what I was able to offer. And it was it's just been a beautiful journey getting to know you and see you blossom into who you've become today. Because I clearly remember where you were at the beginning of your journey, and to see you doing this kind of work today, making a difference in the world, getting the message out there that your pain is not in vain. It's truly inspiring, Anil. So thank you for inviting me to be a speaker and to meet all these wonderful women. Thank you, all of you, for showing up today, because I know you all have important things going on in your life, and the fact that you've taken the time to be here to listen to what I have to say is something I'm deeply grateful for. So let me begin by sharing my journey, my story. My story begins in the spring of 2008 when my husband, my daughter who was 15, and I moved to the United States from India. We moved from southern India. We didn't have any plans of moving. We had no dreams of moving to the States, as many Indians do. Through a series of amazing synchronicities, our green cards literally fell into our lap and we had a decision to make. So when we moved with 6 suitcases and hearts full of dreams about beginning a new life, a new adventure in the States. But life had other plans for me. About 2 months after we had relocated, my mother in India was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and she was only 68 years old. So before we even had time to buy basic furniture for our apartment, I was back on a flight to India because I felt the need to be with her. My father was already ailing, almost bedridden, and my mother was his primary caregiver. So her cancer diagnosis certainly came as a big surprise, and my sisters and I knew that she needed help. Anyway, long story short, from diagnosis to death was only 8 months. She passed away 8 months after her diagnosis. So I flew back again to India for her last rites in January of 2009. And if you're familiar with the Hindu culture, the Indian culture, the body usually comes to the home of the person, and we perform last rites in the home. So my sisters and I, we washed her body, we draped a beautiful silk sari, we placed a rose garland, we rubbed turmeric paste on her cheeks. We did everything as instructed by the priest. When I stepped back after doing these rituals, I was struck by a profound thought. We come into this world with nothing, we leave with nothing. Why then do we spend all our time here chasing after stuff? So obsessed with acquiring and accumulating, when really we should be thinking about what we are leaving behind. My mother was taking her last journey to the crematorium with the only garment that was wrapped around her body. That's it. But what lived on, as I discovered in the days and weeks and months after she passed away, was the love she'd created. Almost everyone who'd had the good fortune to meet her, even in some small, ordinary, everyday way, would come to me and share with me a story about how she'd touched them, how she'd said something inspiring or uplifting, how she'd cared to stop and listen. And that made me think, oh my goodness, we really spend so much time being about I, me, my, when really we should be concerned about what am I here to build, to create, to leave behind? What is my legacy of love going to be? That prompted the three big life questions. Who am I? Why did I come here? What is my purpose? What am I here to do? How am I meant to live this life? And that's what started me on my transformational journey. I knew in that moment, when I had the first thought, that I couldn't live life as I had lived it. When my mother died, I died. The version of me that used to be died, and I was reborn into the version I am today. Because that's what loss does to us. It breaks us down. We shatter into a million pieces. And when we put ourselves back together piece by piece, the new mosaic that emerges is a new vision and a version of you. One that didn't exist before, one that couldn't have existed before, because in the put back together version, you know things you could never have known in your previous life. So for me, I began to think about, what do I know? And what do I want to carry into this new life with me? What do I want to let go of? What really matters? What are my values? What do I want to create? How do I want to live my life knowing what I know today? Knowing how fragile life can be. Knowing how we came here to be love and to make a difference, to walk each other home, as spiritual teacher Ram Dass said, we have to walk each other home. That's what we're here to do. So my mission became, how can I help take what I know today and become a Sherpa, a guide on the journey to other women who are grieving. It doesn't matter what they're grieving. It could be the death of someone they love. It could be being let go from a job they loved. It could be the end of a relationship. It could be infertility. That brings up severe grief and pain. It could be a parent's Alzheimer's diagnosis. Loss comes in so many different forms and shapes. And I just wanted to be a guide on the journey. And the way I look at grief and loss isn't a cookie cutter formula. I don't have a 5-step program to help you get over your pain. I think each one of us is a soul on a unique journey. And each one of us is given our own individual map. So I can only live my map and share with you what I did to get to where I am today. And as you listen to my story, your inner guidance will pick up pieces of my story and my transformation, because your truth is listening to my wisdom. All of us have access to our inner truth. And when your truth is listening to my inner wisdom, it knows what it needs, and it can let go of what it doesn't need. So I'm not here to tell you this is how you overcome loss. These are the steps. I'm here to share with you my story, what helped me. And what helped me, the thing that helped me the most, the pivot of my transformation, was the recognition and the remembrance that I am a soul in a physical body. You see, up until that time, I had been living with little awareness of my soul self. I had been all about my ego self, my life on earth, my, having to do the thing I came here to do, the degrees, the accomplishments, how to survive in the world. Those were my primary concerns. But when my mother died, I became aware through her loss, because here was this person who had lived a full life, who had a history, whose possessions were still around me, her slippers, her clothes, her toiletries, all her stuff was still at home, but she was gone and I didn't know where. And that's what led me on this journey and helped me remember, oh, she just returned to her soul self. She dropped her physical body. It's like taking off a suit of clothes, and she's just gone home to be with the light. She never died because she was never born. Souls never die because souls are never born. And that made me look inward and think, oh my goodness, I'm a soul too. And my physical body will also drop. I don't know how much time I have, but in the time that I have been given, I need to be urgent about my mission, my purpose, my destiny. And when that shift happened, everything changed. Everything changed. It was like a door opened, and I walked into that door, which was the portal through my pain to my purpose. And I know now that pain is not personal, even though it's such a hard concept to digest. When we lose a loved one, especially all of you mothers and warriors who have experienced the worst kind of loss that a human can know, the loss of a beloved child, it is very hard to tell yourself that it's not personal. It feels utterly and completely and totally personal. It feels like a punishing God. You ask the question, where's God in all of this? Why did this have to happen to my child? He or she was just a young person, had a whole life ahead of them. Why did this happen? And that question, unfortunately, has no answers. That's something I came to realize, because I asked the question too, why did this have to happen? I lived 5 minutes away from my parents for most of my life. And I was there to help them and run errands for them and so on. We moved to the States, and then her diagnosis happens and she dies 8 months later. So I just couldn't bring myself to see the logic or the rationale in that. But the mysteries of life and death are far more complex. They are cosmic mysteries. Our human brain, as wonderful and intelligent as it is, cannot comprehend cosmic mysteries. So the more we try to figure out or find that one answer to why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to my child? Why did this happen to my parent or partner? The more frustration we encounter, because there is no answer. We will never know. At some point along the journey, we have to make peace with the fact that we won't know. And the only thing that we can open to is, how do I want to live my life now? Now that I know what this pain feels like, how enormous and big and all-encompassing this pain is, how can I move forward? How can I make a difference? How can I create my legacy? So that became my sole obsession. And I started guiding women who were moving through loss. Perhaps the most important thing in the early months of my mother's loss was all these questions rattling in my brain about what is a soul? What is death? Where do we go when we die? Do we come back? I mean, as a Hindu, born and raised in India, I have always known about reincarnation. But this was an opportunity for me to really develop a relationship with the concepts I had been exposed to. What did I really believe? What made sense to me? And I began to dive deeper and deeper. I began to study. I began to work with my mentors. I began to write about these topics. I began to ask my own soul for answers. And there's no better place to go than here. Right here, you have all the answers you need. And I'm not saying a guide or a mentor is not necessary. They are an absolute ally on our path. When we are broken, we need someone to hold our hand and walk with us. It is a wonderful thing to seek a mentor and find one that you resonate with. But all these questions that were rattling around in my head found expression in my first book, which is called Understanding Death, 10 Ways to Inner Peace for the Grieving. And it's sort of the 10 questions, the top 10 questions that most grievers ask when they're confronted with loss. Why am I grieving so hard? Why does this seem never ending? When will the pain go away? And yet there are no answers. There are no answers to any of these questions because as I know today, they are big cosmic mysteries. And we take comfort from the stories and experiences of people who've had near-death experiences. That was one of the saving graces for me after my mother died. I became completely obsessed with the afterlife. Until then, I didn't even know that there was something called an afterlife, or I hadn't given it much thought. But here I was, very interested in shows and books and stories of people who had crossed over to the other side. What did they see? What did they experience? How were they changed by their NDE? And how do they live today? So through my journey, Anita Murjani has become a very dear friend of mine. She's a mentor and a friend, and we've done work together. And her story was truly, truly inspiring. Least of all because, not least of all because she's of Indian origin. And so I was able to relate to her cultural background and the experiences that she had. So drawing from all these experiences in my own personal life, it became very clear to me that my destiny is about other people I'm here to serve. It can't be about me. As long as we are obsessing about, oh, I need to work on myself, I need to keep healing, there's a destination I need to get to, I'm not there yet. We are never going to get to a destination because there is no destination. Let's just accept that. There is no destination. There's this preoccupation in wellness circles and the spirituality space about working on ourselves, about this constant need to heal and heal and heal and heal. I'll try this modality and then I'll move on to the next, and then the next author and the next coach and the next course and the next program. But that's just running away from what we need to be with. Grief just says, be with me. Every emotion is a messenger. This is how I teach it. Every emotion is a messenger. Just like when we get into our car, we turn on the GPS when we are headed to some place we don't know where we're going. All our emotions form the GPS on our human journey. They guide us. Every emotion lets us know what we are feeling. Guilt lets us know that we've strayed off our moral path. Grief lets us know that something died and we need to sit with our pain. Anger lets us know that a boundary has been violated. So how can we shut the door emotions when they bring us such profound and healing messages. So instead of being obsessed with healing and working on yourself, what if you just listen to every emotion that showed up for you and let your emotions be your guide? Let your emotions teach you what you need to know, what you need to hear and embrace. And when you soften to your emotional experience, whether it is guilt or grief or rage, something miraculous happens. Your heart opens wider and wider. Your heart becomes bigger. And when your heart becomes bigger, there's more room for love. When there's more room for love, we know how to accept ourselves and we know how to accept other people. And that's the point of the journey. It's really quite simple. Being present to our emotions is really the answer to everything that we are going through. But we are in such a hurry to get away from grief, to get away from anger, to get away from guilt. I don't want to be feeling this. I want to feel better. And yet the way to getting better is to be with what we are feeling in the moment. If we can make space for every emotion that shows up in our body, and if we can just be, if we can just say, sadness, I see you, I'm here for you, I'm willing to sit here with you and listen to what you have to say. Okay, you're saying to me today that it hurts so bad that this person isn't in my life anymore. Yes, let's sit here and cry together. Let's just sit here and be with one another. I mean, just saying that, don't you feel a softening and a relaxing in your body? Instead of fighting sadness and saying, I should somehow be strong. I shouldn't show weakness. I shouldn't cry. I should hold it all together. And I want to get to a better feeling place where I can be happy all the time. Positive thinking is not the purpose here. So much noise is made in the wellness space about positive thinking, about being optimistic, about being upbeat all the time. But as humans on this hard life path, we're not here to be positive thinking all the time. We're here to feel the hard emotions. Every day is different. I mean, the sun doesn't shine every single day or every hour of every single day. The sky is constantly changing. What does the weather teach us? If we can just look out the window every morning, that's a spiritual practice right there. The shifting clouds, the changing light, it lets us know that the weather patterns are moving through the sky. It's neither good nor bad, it just is. So if we can approach our emotions in the same way, they're just shifting weather patterns inside of us, and they bring with us important messages. So when there are dark clouds in the sky, we step out and we carry an umbrella or a raincoat. That's the message. When there's a storm brewing and there's a hurricane coming, you go and you stock up on groceries and candles and everything that you need. We listen to the messages, we pay attention, but why do we not pay attention to the messages, to the emotional weather storms that are within us? It's only by learning to be with our emotions that we can heal ourselves. And it's only when we do that that we can open to our destiny. The other question I get a lot is, what is my purpose? How do I find my purpose? How do I know what I came here to do? It's really, really, really quite simple. Your purpose is to be fully you. That's it. Your purpose is to be fully you, because there's only one of you. Of the 7 point whatever billion people on the planet, there's no other human who came here with your blueprint, with your story, with your challenges, with your strengths, with your ethnicity, with your unique life journey. That was given only to you. So if you don't share the story of your life, if you don't own your story, because when we don't own our story, we can't share our story. So the first piece is to own our story. And if we don't share the uniqueness of who we are and why we are here, those stories, that purpose dies with us. So are you willing to sing your unique note in the orchestra of life? Because just like every musician who forms part of an orchestra has a place in the orchestra. If there's a violinist who's missing or a pianist who's missing, the orchestra will not produce the same level of music. Similarly, each one of us has a role in this tapestry called humanity. Each one of us is a piece of the puzzle. So if one piece, you know how it is, if you like doing puzzles, if one tiny piece, even if it's a middle piece, but a teeny tiny piece goes missing, it's so frustrating. The puzzle doesn't come together. We each are one piece of the puzzle of humanity. We each came here with our unique shape, just like that puzzle piece, to fit into something, to offer our gifts and talents in service of some particular cause that only we can do in our unique way. Because I hear this all the time. Oh, there are so many books, there are so many authors. What do I have to say? What do I have to write? Who am I to write another book? And I say, but nobody has lived your story. Nobody can tell your story the way you will tell it. Nobody knows your lessons, what you came here to learn. So to live your purpose, to know your purpose is to know you, know who you are, know your life journey, know yourself intimately. But how can we know ourselves intimately when we are running away from ourselves all the time? When we don't know how to be with ourselves? We have to befriend ourselves in order to know ourselves. If we are running away from our pain, if we are running away from our challenges, if we are running away from what we are afraid of, we will never really discover who we are. And discovery of the self is the doorway to your purpose. So don't be afraid of your pain. Don't be afraid to feel. Feeling your emotions never killed anybody. But not feeling your pain and stuffing feelings down, that has killed a lot of people. Our body is very wise and very intelligent, and this body is what holds all our feelings. And when we don't offer the body an avenue for expression, for these emotions to be channeled in healthy ways, the body struggles, the body suffers. So we owe it to ourselves to be in right relationship with our pain. And when we can do that, we can blossom into an awareness of who we are, what we came here to do. The universe will bring it to you. You don't have to work hard at it. You will receive signs. People will show up. Books will fall off bookshelves. You will hear song lyrics that are absolutely perfect for something you're seeking. The universe is waiting for you to say yes. Will you say yes? That's the only question. So if you have any questions at this time, I'm happy to take any questions. I just want to make sure I'm landing with you all and that you have
Yes,
anything
of course, Umaji, it is, I was in a trance. I was listening to you and I was in a trance, and I wish you lived in India and I could somehow meet you once.
She's coming.
It'll happen.
She's coming.
One thing, Umaji, basically I wanted to ask you something is that generally I'm very sorted. I have accepted. It will be nearly 4 years since I came to know you, since I lost my son. But sometimes I fall into such a dungeon that I don't know how to call myself, like how to come out of it. So what do you do about such grief pitfalls? Something that triggers you so badly without any rhyme or reason. You feel as if it is just a recent loss, a loss just a day ago. How do you deal with that?
I just want to add to Anna's question, because even I had the same thing. When you had said that you should feel the emotions and not suppress it, because emotions are a part of you. But sometimes the emotion is so strong that it is like a swell. You may drown in it, So when that kind of a thing happens, it's very difficult. You have to be conscious and also step away from it because it can take you under. So in those kind of situations, uh, what does one do?
So a couple of things come to mind. The first thing I want to say is you won't drown. You have to trust that you won't drown. It's our fear of drowning that makes us feel, oh my goodness, the swell is coming. I don't want to go under. You won't drown. Because here's the thing, people who navigate the seas, people who, you know, love boating know this truth. When you're flowing with the current will take you. When you're fighting the current, that's when the struggle is hardest. So when you're having a bad day, it's okay to soften into the struggle. Instead of saying, why after 4 years am I feeling like this? I shouldn't be feeling like this. The moment we bring resistance, then we are fighting the current. Instead of saying, it's been 4 years and I will always be Smayan's mother and I will always carry this pain with me, even though now the days of intense grief are less. I carry the love more than I carry the pain, but there will be days when I go back to where I used to be, and that's okay, because I know from the experience of the last 4 years that I am not going to be there forever. I will emerge. So you may need to sit down and have a good cry for a whole hour. And then if you feel up to it, I would say, go watch a movie. Go take a walk, go do something fun. Just pull out your journal and bring some markers and paint or color. Do something that makes you feel a sense of relief or release. Even if you can't get to joy, do the next best thing. I always say, ask a question, what's the most loving thing I can do for myself? And ask it several times a day, because your soul will keep on answering. So what's the most loving thing I can do for myself now? Your soul might say, go make a cup of tea. So you go and you make a cup of tea and you sit down by a window and you look outside at the sky and you drink that cup of tea mindfully. And then you ask again, what's the most loving thing I can do for myself? And it might be, go take a walk. Okay, I'm going to go take a walk. Keep following your soul's urging. Your soul will lead you. And your soul might say, what you need now is just to get in bed and cry and let yourself fall asleep. And you do just that without feeling that sense of resistance. Flow with the current, don't flow against it.
Alison has a question on chat. I will read it out if it's okay. Alison says, I have really tried to be with my grief over the loss of my daughter. However, losing her through suicide is especially hard. It's taking a long time for me to land back down on earth 18 months later. Do you have any words for mothers who have lost a kid through suicide?
I'm so terribly sorry that you're going through that, Alison. That's the first thing I will say. When a child takes her own life, as a parent, you tend to blame yourself. And that's the hardest thing. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Where did I not see this? How did I not communicate better? Was I distracted by something else? And these questions just plague you. I know from everything I have learned, and this feels true to me, and it doesn't have to feel true to you, but I'm just going to share from what I feel and know, that a soul decides to leave when it is time for that soul to leave. And the soul decides to leave in the manner it decided to leave. So there's nothing you could have really done to have stopped your daughter from taking her life. That's the exit door she decided to choose. And I'm sure she's on the other side, witnessing your pain here, witnessing your tremendous grief. and wishing there was something she could do to let you know that she's okay, and she wished she hadn't caused you so much pain. So what I feel guided to say to you is, don't blame yourself. You didn't cause it. You didn't do anything wrong. You could never have known that this was coming. How does any parent walk through life thinking maybe my child will take her life? I mean, that's a neurotic way to live. Nobody wants to live like that, and nobody should live like that. So 18 months is a really short time, Alison. I would say be very, very gentle with yourself and give yourself lots of compassion. The thing about guilt is, here's what I like to say about guilt. As long as we are beating ourselves up for what we didn't know how to give, or who we didn't know how to be present to our children, to somehow have stopped it before it happened, I would ask you, what are the lessons you've learned from losing this precious child? What do you know about life that you didn't know before? What would you say to a mother who still has her child in her life, but who's probably distracted, who's probably pushing her child to be something or someone that the child isn't ready to be? What would you say from your own experience to serve that mother? Because when you take your guilt and you transform it into a powerful act of service that can save another family from going through what you are going through, then even your guilt has purpose. Your guilt has a healing purpose. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ji. I'm a counsellor myself, and I find that, well, I thought I was a compassionate person. I think I was, but I'm much more present in the compassion area. So I guess I felt that I was kind of like this big blob of helplessness, but in effect, I think that the changes are coming in the work that I do. And the other thing that really resonated with what you've said so far, which is so beautiful, so thank you, I'm so glad I came on tonight, is that I have noticed that when I'm feeling rubbish or tired or low energy, then the blaming thoughts, the crazy stuff comes in. But I came back from a really amazing yoga retreat at the weekend, beautiful yoga, meditation, satsang. And I noticed when I was there that my energy had lifted and there was a softening of the pain. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I'm not beating myself up here. And yet when I go back and I'm on my own and the thoughts go crazy and I'm feeling down, then I caused this. Even as I say it, it's irrational. I caused my daughter to do this, and that's when my energy is low. So really watching my energy, and what you're talking about is the self-compassion and the self-care. It lifts the energy and maybe takes away all that crazy mother thinking, that we do. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. So another important thing to do is do an energy check every morning. When you wake up, depending on how well you slept, did you have nightmares? Were you in a crazy thought loop in the night, which kept you awake? So when you wake up in the morning and you do an energy check and say, how is my energy? How am I feeling in my body and my mind? And you only take on what you are able to commit to. I've heard someone say this, and she was a very successful business owner. She said, I had to disappoint a lot of people because I had to put myself first. I had to change my mind several times a day. I would agree to go out with somebody, and then I would wake up in the morning and didn't have the energy for it. Or I had committed to 3 client calls and I only had the energy for 1. So I had to constantly evaluate my needs, my energy levels, and course correct as necessary. And she says that was the single most healing thing she could do for herself as she was grieving the loss of her child. I think it was the loss of her husband. And so often we think, I need to distract myself. I need to forget about this for a while and commit to XYZ. And there's a part of it that's true. You can't be drowning in your grief all the time. It's healthy to go and do other things, meet people, but also be aware. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing it to distract myself? Or have I given my grief time to be present to it? And now I just need a time out, which is totally legitimate. So that's another good way of looking at it too.
Thank you.
What I liked about what you said also, and what Alison asked, was that when you said before, we are all an embodiment of different emotions. And okay, a few months like Alison, or 3 years like me, losing your child, especially to suicide, guilt keeps surfacing no matter how many months. It just keeps coming back because you keep back checking as a mother whether you did everything okay, what went wrong, because that was that moment where everything completely collapsed in your life, everything imploded. So to even look at that body of emotions, like you said, we are a jigsaw of all these emotions. So if guilt keeps surfacing time and time again, to observe it, notice it, and kind of, let that decrease and let something else surface up. Maybe, I don't know, that's the way to deal with the guilt. But to say that, yes, I noticed you, Mr. Guilt, now let other emotions take over. Maybe that is one way of trying to let other emotions also come up and surface up. Maybe that will help. I loved what you said about the purpose. You said that being here as Chandra, as the messed up Chandra that I can be, as broken Chandra as I can be, itself is my purpose. Because 3 years on, I have worked a lot on mental health. I myself am a psychologist, so I kept getting a lot of feedback saying, "Oh, you lost a child to suicide, but you're a psychologist. How did this happen?" So it put me on the back foot, saying that maybe am I really? I turned it inward to see whether I could be a better therapist. Because of what happened somewhere, the event kind of took over, and I um, took over my identity rather than me myself. So I have tried 3 years now to put that behind, and also the need to do something, to find a purpose, to keep yourself occupied. I loved what you said, that we don't need a purpose. We ourselves are the purpose. So if we make ourselves every day getting up in the morning, watching the sun as our purpose, that is it. It doesn't have to be much more. The question I want to ask Umaji is, how do you reconcile soul to all this? When you say, because there is some method to the madness when they say there is a soul plan, that the child had to go when the child had to go, whatever we could do, we could not stop that moment or keep them safe or take time back and change the outcome. But then part of us also, the rational part says, why were we left behind? Why did they have to go? So the struggle for accepting the soul plan is a real challenge every single day for a mom, because it is not something that we think that we have ever signed up for, and if we did, then we curse ourselves every single moment of the day that we did. So when we talk about soul and the purpose, that's when all the negativity comes back in full force, saying that, why did it have to be this way? Why couldn't the soul plan be fixed some other way? We could have gone, the child could have been left behind. So how do we reconcile ourselves with the soul part of it, that it was meant to be, it was something that had to happen,
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure anybody has an answer for that. If it doesn't help you, I would say let it go. If thinking about there was a soul plan and that's why this happened and we had a contract and he had to go first and then it was me, and that thinking doesn't help you, let it go. Why hold on to it? Don't hold on to anything that doesn't serve you, that doesn't bring you peace. It brought me peace, but like I said, we are all uniquely different. And what brings me peace does not necessarily bring you peace. So you have to find your own path to peace and happiness. So if thinking on those lines about a soul plan doesn't really gel with you, let it go. Why obsess with it?
Yeah.
And Alison, to your point, let me just address what Alison said. You said when you're on the mat doing yoga, you're not thinking these judgmental thoughts. That's because you're present, you're fully present to your body. You're fully present to your body. So maybe, unrolling your mat and doing 5 to 7 minutes of something, a couple of poses that helps you drop from your mind into your body would be the kindest thing you can do for yourself when you find yourself caught in that thought spiral. Yes, Chandra, I'm sorry I cut you off. Did you have something to say?
Chandra, unmute yourself. Chandra, unmute yourself. Yeah.
I did. No, I was rolling it through my mind what you said, and it made sense because sometimes you want to try and make sense of everything that is put to you. Every book you read, you try to take something back and say, does this apply to me? So things like these, where they talk about soul plan, reincarnation, you keep thinking, oh, is this where the child is? You want some comfort to know that the child is well. No one has seen beyond the veil. All of us in HPH know about Anita Moorjani, know about a lot of NDE experiences. So we also find comfort in the sense that there is something beyond. If there is something beyond, then our children are in a painless, loving place where they are far better than probably the time that they were here. But then we live in a paradox. We live with one foot there in spirituality that tells us our children are good, but the skeptic part always resists and says, why did this have to happen to me? Why couldn't I go first? What did I do wrong? And in the real experience, the negative thoughts crowd far more quickly. So I think what you said today made more sense. You take what gives you, resonates with you, what gives you comfort. You don't need to be completely soaked in grief. You need to observe it, allow it, acknowledge it, and let it go if it doesn't serve any purpose for yourself. I think that made absolute sense. Absolute sense.
One thing, Chandra, whatever Umaji talked today, I think I have to literally transcript her entire dialogue because everything makes so much sense that I'll have to write everything down and read it again and again whenever I'm in those, weird doldrum states, that the pathetic states. But it was amazing, Umaji. Your wisdom every word is full of wisdom. Nowhere did I feel that this doesn't make sense. No, everything made sense. And that is why I feel I'm so glad that I met you early on. Otherwise, I would not have been where I am today. I don't know where I have been. I really don't have words of gratitude. I don't have words of gratitude. Enough words of gratitude. Really.
Alison shared an experience she had with a medium, and she said that a medium shared that her family did the soul plan together, and everyone, including her daughter thought that her leaving this way might be too much for her, for Alison. But Alison agreed and said no, and it'll be okay. But she says definitely not okay. I had a reading early on with one medium, and the medium, I had only one thing to ask during that first year of me talking to mediums. Why did this happen? Why did he leave? Why? And all that medium said was because it was okay with you. And Alison, it was true. She said he could do this only with you. I found that so weird. I said, what do you mean he could do this only with you? It could have been that we were people who gave permission early on for that soul to pass. You know, if it was in some other house that the child was born, maybe the child wouldn't have had that permission to do whatever they did for an early exit plan. So I think that way what your experience was resonates with me, Alison, because I think the parents did give permission for the child to exit when they wanted to, and with all the love that they could. And the child knew that we would be understanding of that. That is why the event occurred. I don't know if it makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, there is a moment of forgetting. We forget what we agreed to. And when a medium tells us, this is what you agreed to, we say, are you crazy? Why would I agree to something like this? But we'll never, that's why I say the mind can never fathom these mysteries. So wanting to figure this out, it's a dance, right? Because the mind is always wanting certainty. And one of the wisdoms of this grief journey is to become comfortable with uncertainty, with being willing to let go of the need to know why it happened, or how it could have been prevented, what you could have done differently, because all those in this moment are just they're questions, but you know, the answers will never change what happened, and that's the sad part.
Sangeeta, anyone else wants to ask any questions for Umaji?
I'm so sorry, Umaji. I have to keep my video shut because otherwise the connection breaks. I have a lot of internet issues at my home.
Don't worry about it. That's fine.
We have someone on other two phones, one Lala CC and one Plus. Do you have any other questions for Umaji?
Okay, Chandra, we can close.
Can I just ask one more thing before I close it? Umaji, you talked about the soul and about how we are very unique about every soul. As a soul, we are unique. As human beings, we are unique because there is only one of us made. We are not cloned. But even as a soul, we are unique. What would you say to us who want to examine ourselves in a very different way, not in terms of purpose and Chandra being, you know, a person with short hair, black eyes, whatever, but how do I do a deeper examination of myself as a soul with purpose in mind, and not the regular purpose that, you know, coaches say, you know, find something to do, look for a tribute to your child. But is there any way I can do a better soul search for myself to find that connection as to my purpose for the remainder of my life?
What lights you up and what gives you joy and what comes to you so easily, those are the things your soul chose to incarnate with. These are the gifts you're meant to use to give to the world, to make a difference, to create your legacy with in this incarnation. So always ask yourself, what brings me joy? What lights me up? What are the subjects I'm interested in learning about? What can I stay up till 2 a.m. talking about with a dear friend? What is something I would love to do even if I didn't get paid for it? Those are the answers to your passions. What your soul came here uniquely designed to offer as gifts to the world. And the more you're aware of what brings you joy and what lights you up to do and speak about and teach and share, that is when you will start living your purpose every single day. Because it doesn't matter, you know, for me, an opportunity to speak to helping parents heal is wonderful. But for me, I also have the opportunity when I'm standing in a grocery store and talking to a checkout clerk, and she says something about how her day is going, I have the opportunity to offer one little nugget of inspiration that could turn her day around. So it doesn't mean that we always have to be on stages as motivational speakers, although I love speaking and sharing and coaching, that's my passion. I can live it in every aspect of my life. And when you know what that is for you, then you begin to live it. And when you begin to live it, it becomes you, you become it. There's no separation between you and your purpose. It's just Chandra is, the essence of Chandra is her purpose.
Beautiful. Got it.
It was amazing, Umaji. That was so amazing. I can go on listening to you, and I can just go on listening to you forever. I don't know.
Thank you so much.
Again, I feel really, really privileged that I got to meet you early on. Really.
I do as well, Anal. I'm so glad you and I got to talk when I was in Chennai.
The universe conspires. The universe conspires. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
When the student
That's
is ready.
what I mean. The universe will bring you everything you need if you just stay open and present and commit to the intention. I'm here. I've been through this terrible loss. It is heartbreaking. I'm struggling through it. Sometimes it's hard to take the next breath, but I know that through this, I'm meant to do something of immense beauty and value and grace as an offering to the world. That will be my legacy. When I die, people will take that legacy and the world will be a better place because I lived and I created this legacy for others.
Chandra.
Yes, I unmuted myself finally. Yes. If are there any more questions? Does anyone want to ask anything? I'm specifically asking Sangeeta, Lala, and 1+7 because I can't see them and I don't know if they have anything specific to ask. Nothing in the chat box either. Since there aren't any questions, so I'm going to say that I have taken back something far more profound. This whole year of lockdown, I've been grappling with this wonderful word called purpose, and also with what grief coaches do. So I have many more on my phone and on Instagram and Twitter. I'm looking at what they do, what is something that they are telling me that I'm not getting. But I think today was the day that it made complete sense. That I didn't have to look beyond myself because I myself was a work in progress. I myself am my own purpose. So I'm really grateful for this eye-opener. I'm really grateful for you telling it's okay to have all these emotions in a jigsaw form that come together to make Chandra. I'm really grateful for you to recognize our pain and sit with us for that moment and let us know that it is okay. I'm very grateful for you to be our speaker today. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Sorry, I'm breaking up in terms of what I'm saying, but it's really heartfelt. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Anal. Thank you, Sangeeta, and the other two people who have joined us today. So on behalf of HPH, the India Field, as well as the Australia New Zealand.
Break it, Chandra, but I have only one wish left. Umaji, I get to meet you in person one day.
We'll make it happen. It's not difficult. You're in India and I come to India.
Universe will make it happen.
Yes.
I need to sit with you, only me and you, and that would be my...
That's selfish. I'm calling it. That's selfish. She has a deeper Mumbai connection.
No.
Bang right next to me. She has a Chennai connection. Bang where I
come to Gujarat and I meet her in person and not allow anybody else to come into the meeting.
So Umaji, I and Anal have got this thing that whoever comes to India and those are our friends as well in Australia, New Zealand. They have to do at least 2 stopovers, one in Mumbai and one in Ahmedabad. Alison's care package is already being made. So she has specific things like masala chai that are going into her care package. So we have that as an absolute bare minimum. So we are hoping to see whoever comes to India do at least 2 halts. So, and I know that now that you have family in Mumbai, there is no way you can escape that as a route. So it will be wonderful to see you here, and it will be really nice to host you as well.
Thank you so much. I just want to say I feel so connected with each one of you. I feel so accepted. And I just want to thank you for pouring all your love and affection into me. So I'm just very, very grateful that I had this opportunity to meet you, to speak to you, to share my thoughts with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
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 Bye, Ali.
Bye.
Bye.